Hi, I'm Juliane Hyppolite, co-founder of Grit Med.
Hello, I'm Astajia Auguste, another co-founder of Grit Med, and we are a medical apparel company that specializes in providing very cute, modern scrubs and accessories for healthcare and wellness professionals.
I love a great pitch. That's like one of my biggest things. As a marketing person, as a person that works with entrepreneurs all the time, when someone just can go right to their pitch and they just can nail it, it makes me so happy. It even makes me even more happier. Full disclosure, when my cousin is here, when my cousin is like, decides that I've been watching my cousin in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and she calls and says, I'm doing a business. And I'm like, I'm so happy. Like I go, I'm literally going to take all the relatives away from the dark side of either being a doctor or a medical field engineer and lawyer to come into the world of being an entrepreneur, because this is in our DNA. So yay. So I'm even more excited. All right. So ladies, hello. And thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going to start by, I always say, in order for us to understand the business, we need to understand the people. And again, full disclosure, Taj, raise your hand so everyone knows. I go, she is my cousin, so I know her since the day she was born. Although we look like we could be sisters, but we're dramatic age gap, dramatic big age gap of her big older cousin. But I want you to explain, like, for both of you guys to start talking about who you are well before your career. So I don't know who wants to go first, but let's start from where you were born and raised all the way to the point where you went to nursing school, because obviously you're wearing scrubs, and we can assume for people that are listening, they're wearing their scrubs. They are nurses. But before you even hit nursing school, let's talk about where you were born and raised, your family, and up to your moments of going into nursing school. When I hear something, and I always hear things, I will stop and ask for clarity. So who would like to go first?
I'll go. So we both have the pleasure of being born in Brooklyn. So we're Brooklyn born, Brooklyn raised. We're both of
no. We're not doing we. You're doing you.
Oh, me. All right. So I was Brooklyn born, Brooklyn raised. I'm Haitian American. My parents came here, many years ago, raised me and my brothers here. And that's really the start of everything for me. I've seen my mom start her own businesses and, just do little things where she tries to have on the side and make a little bit of extra cash. So that entrepreneurial spirit has always kind of been there just from watching her. So besides that, I went to nursing school. I'm gonna
pause you for a little bit there. So what part of Haiti are your parents from?
My mom is from Port-au-Prince. My dad is from Jacmel.
Okay. And have you, I don't want to assume, but have you been to Haiti back and forth, or?
A long time ago. I think I was like 6 years old when I went.
How was it growing up in your household? I'm first generation born on both sides of the family. So I love being that one where I'm overseeing all the younger relatives and how they are in being 100% born in America, but they still have Haitian, both mom and dad and Haitian parents. And so I always tell people where you're Haitian American, but at the end of the day, you still went home to a Haitian household. So growing up in Brooklyn to parents that are just coming in from Haiti, how was that for you? For you and your brother, what was that like in regards of engaging in the American life, but yet the Haitian life?
So it felt like living two identities. So we have, our morals, our values at home that also translates to how we operated outside of the home. So in school, I was just very, very like straight-laced. I knew not to get out of hand too much at home. So that also translated to how I was in school. There would be certain things with language that would be different between how I would speak at home and how I would speak in school. So that was the biggest difference that I noticed. The way I would say something at home, which is like, close the lights, that doesn't, for us Haitians, it sounds appropriate in Creole, but when you say that in English, it doesn't translate well. So it was a lot of like learning and reprogramming to say things a certain way so that it made sense in English.
What's the difference between you and your brother, and who's the oldest?
So I have two older brothers. One is 5 years older than me, and the other one is 7 years older than me.
So you're the baby, and there's a gap. And how are you? There's three of you. You're in America. The two brothers born in America as well?
Yes, as well, yeah.
How was that? So now, like, there's that protective force of the only girl in the family. And you're switching from America. But I mean, like, for me, it was that whole entire concept of, yes, I'm in a Haitian household, but I want to have the fun. I see all the things that my friends are doing, but I didn't have a protective force. I mean, I had an older sister, but I didn't have two brothers that are now watching over me. And so how was that in regards of you being able to create and develop who you are as a person? But now, okay, I have my parents here, I have my brothers here. How did you create who you were in regards of like, where do I stand out in this world? What am I going to be doing? I go, and what's the career path that I want versus what they want from me?
Right. So along with my parents and my brothers, I feel like I had 4 parents in total. So everybody was naturally super overprotective. I think I just carved a little niche for myself. Like I was never a problem child where somebody had to worry like, oh, what is she doing? So I stayed under the radar. I just did all the right things for the most part. Going to high school kind of just tunneled me into a nursing program. So, it's very typical that Caribbean people are, in healthcare as nurses or any other kind of job, doctors, CNAs. So I ended up just being tunneled in that direction towards being a nurse because going to Clara Barton was literally on a whim, and I did not think that was going to happen. And I'm grateful that it did. So with that, I've just been able to use my nursing career and establish myself very well. And, everybody trusted my judgment on things because I was just like, you don't have to worry too much about her type of kid.
I love it. Okay. So of course, it is like funny because you are the third relative that I've had on the podcast, and everyone's like, how many relatives do you have that own their own business? I'm like, we all have our side hustle and we all have our thing. So I go, we all gotta have it. I could basically have the podcast of just full of relatives if I wanted to, but I had to diversify by having my friends and family and all over the world as well. So right. Taj, talk to me about your first beginnings. I mean, again, I know it, but the audience doesn't know it. So talk to me about from the time that you were born and raised, but also up to the time that you guys met each other in nursing school.
Yeah, so our stories, especially together, start pretty early on. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, grew up in Canarsie. Juliane actually lived for a little bit. So we went to elementary school together. So we've known each other that
for
long.
Years.
So elementary school, went to different junior highs, and then met back up in high school at Clara Barton, where we did our licensed practical program together. So we were in that program like 16, 17 years old, trying to still figure out.
I'm gonna stop you. I think that you're so cute because you just like kind of like erased your family. So we're just gonna wheel back. Again, I know your family because it's my family. Wheel back, my friend, and talk to me about when you were growing up.
Let's see, growing up, well, like you said, my family. I'm also Haitian American. My parents, both nurses, surprise, surprise. And I have a brother and a sister who are not in healthcare, want nothing to do with it, which I think is really interesting and really cool that they've kind of like, paved their own way and really don't listen to the naysayers. Similarly to Juliane, I just went to Clara Barton. My mom was like, well, I mean, you're not doing anything anyway. So apply to this program. If you get in, you'll be able to, pay for school and do whatever it is you want to do when you get to college. So that's really how it was pitched to me, where my parents were supportive, but supportive if I had a plan and something concrete to fall back on. So not supportive of, I think I want to just cook stuff for people.
So wait, so I have to ask. So in my household, I knew, literally my dad's side, literally all lots of doctors, very little lawyers. On my mom's side, clearly you're on my mom's side, lots of lawyers, lesser in the medical field, but it's there, and engineering in both. They must have saw something in me where they were like, we're not even going to push her to any of those things because she's a whole different kind of a person. And so they tried to get me in the military. They tried to get me to be an airline stewardess. They tried to be I was selling Cutco knives, and I landed on being a teacher for elementary school. But they tried to push me things because they knew my brain wasn't wired for those jobs. What was it, because they were both nurses, or was it because you had no idea what you wanted to do and you were like, I'll just kind of go that route?
I think honestly a little bit of both. So especially at that time, I was kind of just floating in the wind. Wherever the wind took me is pretty much where I was going. And it sounds so bad to say, but I was one of those kids, I was in gifted and talented programs and never felt like I had to work as much. So because I always just kind of ended up there, I was like, oh, it'll figure itself out. And so when I got to high school and my mom was just like, you're getting older, you need to start putting some thought into what it is you want to do. So at that time, I thought I would either go to culinary school or do physical therapy. And at one point I was like, okay, I do want to go into physical therapy. And my mom said, well, if you do this program, when you graduate, you can, work and pay to go to school. So you don't have to be a nurse forever. You can just use this kind of as leverage to open doors and do other things that you want to do. So when she kind of framed it in that way, then I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do this. And then once I started nursing, I was like, oh no, I have to try. It's not easy anymore.
You have twin siblings. Being an oldest in a twin sibling situation, to Haitian parents, how was that for you growing up? Because you have the mom and dad that are, and I mind you, I spoke to your dad 2 days ago, and I always had said I've said this to my mom and my dad, where the five of you are such an amazing unity. It's spectacular. I'm very rarely jealous of relatives because I just, again, I paved my own way, but it's not the jealousy of what you do, but it's the unity of how the family is designed and how you guys have each other's back, which is by far one of my favorite. You guys are one of my favorite relatives that I love just seeing, and you guys are my role models of how to build a family and take care of each other despite the naysayers and other relatives and things like that. But how was it for you growing up where you have twins, and twins are the unity of twins is crazy. And then you have the parents that are they're laid back, but they're still Haitian parents, born and raised in Haiti. We have our ways. We can be cool with you, but we have our ways of the way that we were raised in another country. And we're in America enjoying it, biding our times, but our values have never changed. So how were you having these two different stories, and you're right in the center of the middle of these two different stories?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for saying that. It's definitely taken a few years to find that balance. My parents have always wanted us to remain close, and my dad especially is family comes first. We have to be strong as a unit. We have to help each other as a unit and be supportive of one another. And those roles were identified pretty young. I would say for me, obviously being the oldest, just taking on certain responsibilities, making sure to help out around the house. As I was working as an LPN, I told my siblings, don't ask mom and dad for money, for pocket change, come to me. I'm your older sister. If I can take that burden off of them, don't ask them, let's work together. And so now that we're older and we're appreciative of, each other and the sacrifices everyone has made, whatever that may be, we just really appreciate each other a lot more. And especially, with my siblings, I've gotten like super close to them as we've gotten older. Sister, we speak just an unhealthy amount, just so much. And I mean, that's what keeps our family so tight though, is, communicating, calling each other out when we need to. Not everything is always, fun and peaches and, daisies all the time. Like, we have to call each other out, but you just come back to just what the mission is, and that's to stay together and stay united.
But where is it where it's a little like you have two couples on each side? So when you were younger and growing up, again, you had your mom and dad, but you had your brother and your sister, twins. So you're in the middle of these two couples. Like, how did you find your place within this world?
I mean, honestly, I've just kind of, you talk about people straddling the fence, I'm hopping over the fence just back and forth, because I identify, of course, with my siblings because we're siblings and, we like to talk crap about our parents and do that. But then I'm the oldest sibling. And so if my brother's acting up, then I go to the side of my parents. I'm like, we need to speak to him. We need to get things under control. And so I'm always just kind of like teetering the fence. And my sister loves to call me an instigator. And she's right. Like, I want to be in all of it.
See, this is a fun thing where my dad always said, because we live in Massachusetts and we were the only relatives, I shouldn't say only, we were one of the first ones to be in Massachusetts, where everyone else is in New York. And everyone always asks, like, why aren't you in New York? I'm like, because my dad wanted us to be with our cousins, not on top of them. So I love hearing these stories where I can see you guys in the peripheral and I can sit there and hear the stories, but I'm not there. So it's entertaining for me, where for some people are like, this is our pain point. I'm like, not for me. This is like fun. I get to go back home to Boston or Massachusetts. I'd say it's easier, but it's easier to say Boston. All right. So now you guys meet. You have your family units. You go the twins, the two older brothers, the mom and dad. I go Haitian American. How do you guys keep that legacy of who you are very clear to the outside world? Because you are in Brooklyn, you are in New York, where everyone calls it the Great American Melting Pot, which I hate that term because I want to see my carrots. I want to see my salad bowl of things and people. I don't want to sit there and have this melting pot where we get erased. So how were you able to keep your culture very well aware to others? Because for me, as an older person, I'm like, there's not one place I don't go without saying I am Haitian American. I don't adopt other people's cultures or things like that. I will visit you. I will come to your celebration, but I know who I am. I know what I do. I know what my parents have been working really hard. I know the legacy that I need to keep up. So how was it for you? Because you're, again, in a younger generation, you're in the nursing field. People have the stereotypical, like, of course you're in this job. This is where, your trait. This is where you're supposed to be. So how was it? How are you able to keep who you are, your legacy, your family, your culture intact?
That's a great question. I would say for me, thinking back on it, I probably did not have to do that until I became a young adult. Growing up in Brooklyn, and then by the time I was, I think maybe 11, my family, we moved to Queens. Mm-hmm. And then in high school, I ended up back in Brooklyn to go to Clyde Barton. So I've always felt like I was in a community. There were always a lot of Caribbean people around where I live. So it was never hard to maintain my Haitian identity. If I wanted Haitian food, I go a few blocks and I could find it no matter what. So good. But I would say it wasn't until college where I went to Hunter in the city first. And then you just have everybody there. You have a whole lot of people. So, when making friends, I'm always going to rep Haiti. So it's just maintaining that. If I have to teach some people a few words so they know what I'm saying, because some things really don't translate that well into English. So I think those little things would maintain my identity. And I love a good home cooked meal. So if my mom was making something, and we know sometimes Haitian food doesn't look as appetizing, but the flavor is there. I had no problem bringing my food to work or to school, and it may look a little different, but it's banging. So I think those things, and now that where I work is into Long Island, you know, there are some Caribbean people there, but not as much. So it's really a job to maintain that identity. You know, I do things differently, you know, some mannerisms, and I have to explain, like, listen, I'm Caribbean. This is how we do things sometimes. You know, you walk into a room, you say hello, good morning to everybody. So it's things like that where in maintaining the Haitian identity, I'm also like schooling them on how I operate. So
it's so funny that you say that, because I was taught where if someone makes eye contact with you, you say hello. So I have some of my older relatives, they're like, why do you have to say hi to everyone? I go, they made eye contact. They made eye contact, and you're going to say hello. And I'm always engaging, and I'm like, hello, how are you? And I go, when I was younger, my parents were like, she's going to get kidnapped. She talks to everybody. Like, honest to goodness, I go, what do you do? I mean, like, they were like, okay, where is she now? So it is funny that you say that, because I do it all the time, and people are like, that's weird. I'm like, no, it's not. And when people walk past me, they make eye contact and they don't say hello, and I'm like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, I go, who raised you? Who raised you? I don't care how old you are. You must say hello and say good morning or say something, or even a nod. I'll take a nod, something, anything.
At the very least.
Oh, geez, Louise. Okay, Taj.
I feel like you kind of just like unlocked something, because now I'm like thinking back, and you know, when we were young, you know, me and my siblings, we went to like a Jewish-owned summer camp and after school, right? So it's like a whole bunch of Jewish kids, and you had like a sprinkle of a few Black kids, and since it's 3 of us, we made up half of it, right? But while, you know, we knew we were different culturally, it was never something that was kind of thrown out, or like I never felt bad about it, because they talked about things they did, we talked about things that we did, and you kind of moved on. So like for that aspect, it never like hit me until, like Juliane said, now that I'm older, and specifically now that I started doing travel nursing, I'm really feeling it, because I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I worked in Brooklyn, where it's pretty diverse. It's a whole bunch of Caribbean people. Like, I'm never having to explain my culture to anybody. And so now that I'm in these places where I can't find Haitian food, I can't find Jamaican food, I can't find anything. And like
spices, tell me, can you find spices?
I have to go to certain neighborhoods, but I mean, yeah, I'll find it. But, you know, having to explain, you know, when we're at work and the doctor comes in and they said, how was this patient overnight? And I respond with, hi, good morning, how are you?
That part.
And it like, people kind of feel like taken aback that I've said it to them, but we didn't have dinner together last night. You know, you didn't say goodnight to me last night. You didn't wake up with me this morning. When you come in, be polite, say hello, say good morning. And we can have a conversation. So it's interesting to see like just those cultural differences, especially as I'm traveling, just not even across the country. I'm in the same state and I'm just upstate, and it's so different.
It's so funny that you say that. So I have I have interns every year. So I have like up to like 15 to 20 interns per year. And years later, I mean, I've been doing internship programs for years, and my interns come back to me or send me emails, messages. I go, 2 things that we go through in our lives, not in our careers. Number one, we're all like, what would Jodi do in this situation? I go, and Jodi would be so mad because you didn't say good morning. And so they have, I'm like, good, I planted the seed where it's not the norm when someone doesn't say good morning or hello. I mean, I don't care. I mean, like, it throws me off that people don't even talk to anyone anymore because they're like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt someone's feelings. I go, I don't care if you hurt my feelings. It's a different thought. It's okay. I go, you have different views, but at least start with good morning, hello. I disagree with you. I don't like what you just did. Oh my God, have a wonderful night.
Absolutely.
At the very least.
At the very least. I go, we were raised with thick skin. Boom, thick skin. Right. You guys meet each other. You guys basically are raised together. And then you end up in the same school together going for nursing.
By fate.
Well, I was gonna, like, tell me, what do you mean by fate?
I would say for me, I don't know. I think God has his hands just working on my story, because after my family moved to Queens, I went to junior high school in Queens. And then so I went to Clara Barton on a whim. I had a friend that was in junior high school with me who lives a few blocks away from me.
Mhm.
And she just casually mentioned, oh yeah, this is around the time we're picking high schools.
Yep.
So, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna put this school on my list.
Wait, can I ask? Wait, I gotta ask. What do you mean picking high schools?
So in junior high school, we get a big book, and then we have to fill out high school applications where from I think maybe 1 to 10, we write down which schools we want to go to.
What?
And then,
Okay, so all right, this is where when you're raised in a small town, we'll call it, there's 12 junior high schools. There are 4. There's 12 elementary schools. There are 4. We all go into the 4 junior high schools, and then the 3 high schools: public, Catholic, or vocational. That's so it was like everyone went to the public high school unless your parents wanted you to go to Catholic or vocational. So when I'm hearing a book of high schools, what are you talking about?
A book of schools across the 5 boroughs. And then you make a list.
But if you're in Queens, why would you even go to like Manhattan? Like, why would you even put yourself through that?
Some people, if the school is that good, you'll travel. There's a lot of people who went to specialized schools in other boroughs. So you
we have to test in.
Yeah.
And that's still to this day in New York.
Oh, I'm not even sure.
Wow.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure.
A book. That's
book.
So how many, out of this book, what is the number of choices that you have for high schools?
There are a lot of choices.
There were a lot.
A lot. So you start in your borough first, and all of these schools are ranked by graduation rate and, dropout rate and, how well the school is. So then you go through it, mostly with your parents. But I feel like for me, my parents were older, they're Haitian. They were just like, all right, go to your brothers, they'll help you out. They weren't too concerned with that aspect. So, I think I picked maybe 5 or 6 schools that I was interested in.
Okay.
And because my friend had mentioned, oh, Clara Barton has this LPN program, I think I'm going to put it on my application. I was just like, all right, that sounds cool. I don't even think I knew where Clara Barton was. So I go and I put it last on my list.
Okay.
And that was the only school I got into.
And you wanted to be a nurse?
I can't say that I did.
Okay.
I was just like, oh, it doesn't hurt. It'd be cool. But I knew that, my parents, they would push me into healthcare. And sometimes it's just like when they push you too much, you're just like, well, I don't want to do it. What if I want to do something else? So I was just like, I'll just put it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I'll find a career at some point. So I was like Astajia at that time where it's just like, wherever the wind takes me, I'll go. And that was the only high school that I got into. And I lived in Queens and the school was in Brooklyn. And I wasn't a bad student. So I was just like, how didn't I get into any other school? And that was it. So I had to make the commute from Queens to Brooklyn every day for 4 years and met Astajia maybe, sophomore year or junior year. Yeah. We went into the program together, tight like glue ever since.
So how did you, all right, so now you guys went to school in elementary and you knew each other in elementary school, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and you leave so junior high school is 2 years or 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. So it starts at 6th, 7th, 8th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, so over here we have 6th and 7th grade, and then you go to high school. So all right. What was the connection like, Taj? Did you just see each? Obviously you were there freshman year, and you did what? Is the school that big that you just didn't see each other?
I don't know what happened those first 2 years, to be honest with you. And it's become like a recurring joke because I have another friend who we had mutual friends, and we never met until she also did the LPN program with us. And I was like, where have you been? Like, I never saw them. And I also, when I first got to Carl Barton, I was in, what was it called? I think Gateway, which was like this like honors program. So it was like a group of you just in like taking these specific classes, like kind of away from the school. So that didn't help either, that like I wasn't seeing like certain people. So by the time I got to the program, I was like, there's a lot of people here. And like,
you were in a bubble.
Right. And so then of course I knew Juliane already. So it was just like another day, and clicked, got together, and that was pretty much it.
And so then it's funny because our nursing program split into two groups senior year, and we ended up in the same group. So
serendipity.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. So when you guys go back to New York and Manhattan, my favorite ice cream place, I think it's still there, Serendipity. It's literally, since growing up, my favorite place to eat ice cream. Because they give you a ridiculous amount of ice cream. That was my sidebar. Taj, you have two parents that are in the nursing field. You see how many hours they're working. You see what they're going through in regards of the stories and things like that. What was it about it that you wanted to go this route? Because you could have gone any route. You weren't sure what you wanted to do. You're seeing them, you're hearing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and yet you still go into it. And it's not an easy field. Why?
That's a really great question. I would say in high school, looking back, I felt like it was something I started, so I need to finish it. And so I was studying. I mean, my dad, he laughs because he would be up with me until like 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes like going over notes, helping me study. We had another classmate. I would be in the bathroom and we'd be on the phone. Like the bathroom was my office. I would close the door, have all my books, and we'd be on the phone, just like in there. So when I graduated and started working, I was like, I actually really like this. Like I knew I liked it, but I felt more passionate about it. To where I said, I think I'm going to continue like pursuing this and, become an RN. Yeah. And so like over time, especially as I started working more, I'm like, okay, I really like this and I'm really good at it. So like, how can I just keep getting better and doing more? And that's pretty much how it came. And so like now, me and my parents, we just swap work stories, but none of that scared me. I was just like, oh, that's cool. Oh, this person did this. Oh, well, that's really cool. This happened to this person. That's unfortunate, but that's really cool. And you just keep going and going.
This is one of those moments where I can't wait for the family book to come out, because that's going to be like the story. No, you know what? Because I will. When back in the day when there were tolls, there were tolls on the highway, but like there used to be the booths. AAA would put out a book every year of all the things that the toll collectors would see as the cars would go by. And that book was popular every single year, everyone knew. So the nurse's story, because there's Devil Wears Prada, all those movies are coming out. There's going to be a nursing story. I know there is. Outside of what we see on TV, there's going to be a story. You decide to, it's not like you left your job, but you decide to start a company. What year did the company start and why did it start?
Officially, we started in June of 2020. Fall of 2019, after many years of just touch and go with it, hey, I think we should do this, I think we should do that. But, life and work happened. So we never got to really settle on it. So towards the end of 2019, we were just like, I still kind of want to do this. And then so it was a mutual agreement. And we was just like, all right, we're going to go balls to the walls. and then, it's just like we did little baby steps. And then, of course, we know the pandemic happened in March of 2020, shut everything down. And then we didn't really get to pick it up until June of 2020, when everything, it was still slow, but we were like in our groove. Work was work and it was horrendous, but we were managing, and it was just like, okay, I think this is a safe time to sit down and think about like what we have to do and how we have to do it. So officially June 2020.
what was the reasoning of why it started? Why did you decide this is the time to make this product?
Well, like Juliane said, it had been something, honestly, since high school that we had been talking about. We're like, oh, that would be really cool to make our own scrubs and blah, blah, blah. And for whatever reason, and some of it maybe is cultural too, is you never think that can be you who is doing those things. You think those kind of dreams and ideas are for other people.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm going to stop you. That is not a cultural thing at all. No. All right, go ahead.
And so, you know, people want you to do well, but they're like, oh, that sounds great. And they leave it there. Right. And so, you know, because it's not safe.
It's not stable.
Like you said, you know, work and school and just life. And, you know, then we get to 2019 and we're just like, maybe we can do it. And then I guess that, you know, to be an entrepreneur, to me, you have to just be a little off the wall, because we're like, let's start our company during this global pandemic, because surely people want what we have.
That's what they want. The world is upside down, but you know, let's put out this product.
We have something and they'll take it.
Now, mind you, we're definitely going to talk about the pandemic, but I want to clearly focus on this right now. I try to remind people all the time that when it's a downward economy, when there's a major situation happening in the world, is the best time to start something. The best time. And so when the pandemic happened, I wasn't even worried about it, because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good time. I mean, outside of being ill or dying, this is going to be a great time of evolution and innovation and entrepreneurship. Because in 2009, I'm sitting in my MBA class. We have the Great Recession. The president of the school comes out and says like, oh yeah, so all you guys getting your MBA, you're now overqualified and no one's going to touch you. You have to go live with your capstone, that fake business that we did just for a grade. You have to go live with that because you're not marketable at all right now. And I'm like, oh, no. I don't want to work for other people. I want to work for the man. I want to know where my check comes, my insurance. I want to know I've always worked for the man. That's what I like. I know what I do. And so when I had to go live, and I will say this and people will get mad, I don't care. I say it over and over again. An MBA teaches you how to elevate a business, not how to start a business. And so I walked out with a capstone. I walked out with a MBA degree, a dual MBA degree, but I had no idea anything about business. And so for the first 5 years of my 13 years of owning my business, it was hard. It was hard. So for you guys, you are working, it is a pandemic. You're learning about how to build a business. What did you do? Because there are a lot of people right now. I mean, you see all the individuals that are leaving jobs. People are leaving in like not thousands, not hundreds, millions of people are leaving high-paying six-figure jobs because they want more. The 2 years of the pandemic showed them, I need more for myself, for my future, and this working all the time and working like a dog and not seeing anything other than a 401k and money is not enough for me. I want more. So what were the highs and what were the lows for you in regards of creating this product? Because there are scrubs. You hear the word scrubs, everyone knows what scrubs. I mean, there's a show on scrubs. I mean, like everyone knows what a scrub is when in the medical field. Right. Everyone is probably scratching their head thinking, there's 10 people. I mean, I see my doctors wearing scrubs every single day. Why you? Why now? And I interviewed someone when I first started the podcast 2 years ago. I interviewed a woman from Oregon, and I know what her answer was. So what was it for you guys in regards of coming up with a different model?
I think it's funny. You kind of like touched on it a little bit. For us, we're like, okay, we're nurses. We started out super young. We don't want to be doing this same thing 40 years from now. How is it that we can set ourselves up just for more? Like, we have this idea, okay, what do we do with it? And how can we make it work for us so that like, it not only works for us, like how can we use it to then open doors and build community around it? Because like we said, we started in 2020, like it's new to us and we're, figuring things out and
Learning every day.
Googling like crazy and, talking like crazy and just trying to figure things out. But, we just think like, okay, nurse working at the bedside and being in the hospital 50 years from now is not what we want to be doing. So what can we make that it shows us and let's like people within our community know like, hey, we have this thing, we think you would like it. We know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Come and get some. And, just kind of like trying to build on that essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were the highs and what were the lows for you as you're running through this process?
Oh, I'd say a high for us. I think definitely launch day is a high for us. We were literally sweating because, you make a product and you do all this stuff. You have a photo shoot, you get people involved, you get people excited. And, you can have a bunch of people saying, yeah, girl, go girl. I'm going to purchase, I'm going to buy, I'm going to support. And then nobody does. So once we opened up that website that we've been like creating and building and, changing things up on ourselves, Astajia did amazing. Hats off to you for the website. Once we opened it up and then we seen like orders coming through, it was just like, it's indescribable pretty much. It's like, wow, people really did want to support and, people like it. And, I was at work during that day. Astajia was home and we're texting each other and we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pass out.
And I remember joking, telling her, oh my God, we're 100-aires. Like,
yeah, I think in that day, I don't even remember, like 13 orders maybe, or I don't remember exactly. But we was just like, oh my gosh, even these like, it may be little to somebody, but it was a whole lot to us, So that was definitely one of the highs.
Our lows. I think,
We've had
and
a
we're
few.
still learning it now, is advocating for ourselves and being clear and direct with what it is that we want.
Yep.
Because, and especially in our profession, it's always, you're advocating for your patient. You're doing what you have to do for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have to be the ones to be like, okay, well, what do we want? And how do we get that across? And so that's something, we've dealt with. We're still like learning how to deal with it. And but when those moments come, we, talk to each other, keep each other grounded, and we're like, okay, how are we going to attack this? How are we going to deal with it?
Yeah.
And then, that's been pretty helpful for us, just bouncing things off one another.
Right.
So, we don't stay in those lows for too long.
So many people that are going into business, they go in with the excitement of what they're going to do, but yet they have no idea who they're targeting. So who is the best target audience? Because someone may say like scrubs for everyone, and that's not the case. So who is your target audience of who's the best customer for Grit?
That's a great question. I think our ideal customer is the 20 to 30 something year old. They're in healthcare. They want to look stylish. They want to feel, like they come into a room and they want to feel put together. They just want to have people know that they're there. Everybody's wearing scrubs. And in a lot of facilities, a lot of people wear the same colors depending on which department you work in. Yep. So you don't get that level of individuality where you get to stand out amongst your peers. So our scrubs are for those who want to look good, want to feel good, because for me, when I look good, I feel better. You got to jazz it up a little bit. So that's our ideal customer.
Scrubs have changed dramatically. Like I have scrubs in the house because I have so many relatives that are in the medical field. So I have scrubs that there are my pajamas. There are like my hangout in the house kind of thing. So I've always had them. because they were like literally relatives would just give them to me. Then there was an evolution of prints. So everyone got to have their certain prints, more so for in children's departments, because kids felt more comfortable with the fun stuff. And then everyone's like, well, I want that as well. But on other floors, they still keep straight where the blues. How are hospitals I mean, is there a discussion with the hospitals where when someone is deciding to create their own style with their scrubs, are hospitals okay with this? Are they pushing away from this? What is happening there? Because there's always been a standard way of looking for everyone to look the same. Your number one focus is the patient, not about you, it's about them. So how is the discussion happening where the scrubs are coming into the hospital, and where's that whole entire concept of everyone should look the same, style, shoes, the whole entire thing?
Yeah, so there are, especially as I like speak to different people, different hospitals and facilities take dress codes in a multitude of ways. So I was at one hospital where truly I couldn't tell who was a nurse and who wasn't.
Okay.
Because they wore t-shirts with the hospital's name and the unit and some scrub pants.
Okay.
I could only really tell who was like a nurse or a nurse really, if they had like a stethoscope on, because it was so casual. And then you have another extreme where they want you looking the exact same color, same style. Nobody wants to see you like in a jogger, because that's just like too etchy. No one wants to see an ankle. So it all depends on like kind of where you are, where you're working, and kind of like how your administration is. But like many things, you kind of just push the envelope, because for me, before we started, I was one of those people purchasing scrubs from other companies that I was like, that's different, that's really cute, I'm wearing it. And I would do that and nobody said anything, and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing a little more. So nobody said
ask for forgiveness later.
So because you're inside the hospitals, you're in the industry, and you're seeing all these different kinds. Clearly, you are coming into a saturated market. And so how do you find ways to stand out in this saturated market? Especially now that everyone's pushing their own envelope. So it's even becoming more saturated. As I mentioned at the beginning, when I first started this podcast 2 years ago, I had someone from Oregon. And so how is it, there's so many people that are coming into this market. You're going into the gift shop where it used to be just gifts for the patients. And now you're seeing a whole section of things, because you guys you live at the hospital, so you can go shopping. If you don't have time to go home, I can go and pick up something else and I can wear a brand new scrub. So how are you finding ways to stand out in this extremely saturated market? Not to scare you, but it is what it is.
No, we understand that. I would say that just what we bring to the industry, our style, how, we make designs that we would want to wear. Okay. So personally, I haven't really seen anybody with our design that we created so far. Like Astajia said, we just push the envelope. So we know what, as healthcare workers, nurses, we know what we want. We like pockets, we like, to be able to bend down and to, our clothes to go with us and not feel constrictive. So we use what we like in order to create something. So like I said, individuality, I think, is a big thing nowadays, where it's just like, you want to stand out next to your coworker, so the joggers, the Mandarin top collar, it's fresh and it's new. And we pull our sources from what we see and we revamp it. And I think that's what really helps us stand out in the saturated market. And also how we target the audience. We want to be relatable. We want them to feel like you can wear this if you're at work, mostly at work, but if you have to go run an errand or something, like it still translates well to if you have to do a Target run or you have to go grocery shopping or something. It's still a good outfit to have on.
When you sit there and say that in regards of when you bend, you want it to bend with you. As we know, doctors walk in, they walk out. I mean, I took care of my grandmother for 21 years before she died at 95 in 1 month of blessings. And I was in the hospital all the time in Boston, MGH and Mount Auburn. Shout out to the two hospitals that took care of my grandmother until she was 95 years old. And those nurses, I mean, I spent more time with the nurses than obviously the doctors. The lifting, the bending, the this, the that, your body is basically being contorted in so many different directions to take care of patients of all ages, of all sizes. And so when you're looking at the scrubs of the past, where the drawstring, simple drawstring, baggy, not baggy, I saw people rolling them up on their ankles, rolling them up on their arms. You had to configure it to your body size because they were all one size, one small, medium, large. That was it. When you are creating the style, you guys are nurses, you're not designers. How did you, yes, you are all about, I know what I'm going through every single day, so I can tell you what's needed, the pocket, the styles, the button. I mean, I even see the buttons on you and the pleats. You know the style that you have, you know what you deal with every single day, but you're not designers. How did that happen?
Oh boy, that was a fun one. And I always joke with people because people will ask, like, well, guys, how do you guys like design it and all this kind of stuff? And I will never forget looking like at our sketches, and it truly looked like a third grader drew them.
Yeah.
And we had an idea, and we're like, we want it to look like this, and then we pass it off so somebody else can get it together for us, and then she gives it back, and we're like, oh, that's what we meant actually. Not this third grade drawing, but you get our vision. And so there was like a lot of that in the beginning. And like you said, we're bending, we're moving, we're doing this. And all I can think of is with old scrubs, having to roll up my sleeves, having to roll up my pants. And when something's going on, you don't want to like drop your patient, be like, hold on guys, gotta tuck my shirt in. And do all of that. So we're very aware of fit and how breathable and movable we want things to be. We don't want you thinking when you bend down, your butt's going to be out. We don't want you thinking when you lift your arms up, like your belly, like we want you to feel comfortable. Once you're in, you're in.
Oh yeah.
Do what you have to do. You can run, you can jog, you can skip, but you're not going anywhere. You'll be comfortable. You don't have to worry about it.
And we will tell you, we had fabric swatches like nobody. We could have probably had a factory with all of the types of materials. They would come to my house. I would go to Astajia's house with it, and I'm just like, okay, how do we feel about this? How do we feel about that? And it's too light. It's too heavy. There's not enough stretch. This has too much stretch. So it took a long time.
Drying it.
Oh yes, yes. We washed it a few times to see, does it lose the color? Some of the fabrics did. So we're not designers. We only have an idea, and we kind of, like Astajia said, we'll have a drawing and then somebody else will fine tune it. So yeah.
That is I think that's one of the things where I tell people all the time, you don't have to be the one that makes it or does it. You just have to come up with a vision and then find the right people, because Steve Jobs has had no idea how to do an iPhone. He had no idea about the technology. He had no idea about the coding, but he got together with Steve Wozowski, and Steve Wozowski created the phone that we all, well, most of us enjoy in every single way. I mean, I'm not a Steve Jobs fan, but whatever. But I love the fact that he pushed the envelope and he got it out there, because if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, Steve Wozowski's beautiful product would have never seen the light of day. Because I work with entrepreneurs every single day that their egos or their shyness get in the way of a product seeing the light of day. And so I love that you guys had a vision. I love the fact that you guys knew, like, we have the vision. We are not the ones that are going to make it, but we know what we want and what works and what doesn't work. And we can sit there and put our egos aside to make sure that our vision sees the light of day, which I love that. And I'm so proud of both of you guys for that. You said the word breathable. During the pandemic, you guys were wearing a lot of clothes. You guys were wearing a lot of gear, and a lot of people were complaining, not just because of the mask and the rashes and things like that your face was dealing with, but they didn't even talk about the rashes in their what their bodies were enduring, wearing clothes that were not breathable, that they were not able to be flexible in, and having something on top of the clothes that they're already not flexible with. So talk to me in your own experiences. How was it for you during the pandemic? I mean, it was something that you guys were just young in this industry, and this pandemic happened and you dealt with it for 2 years. And Taj, because you're traveling around, some hospitals are still dealing with it at a very high scale. Every single day in Massachusetts, we still get how many people are dying. People are still dying from COVID. So tell me about your own experiences at like March 2020, when the pandemic, like the wind, I mean, February 2020, you start hearing about it. March 2020, pretty much the country is closed down. And then what was the 2 years like for each one of you guys?
I mean, I'll start. I remember, so my hospital had one of the first documented cases in the city. So at that time, I work in the ICU. So at that time, patient comes and she's just like the first patient in the hospital, right? So we're writing down our names to go in her room. We're timing how long we're staying in the room. We had a camera watching us, put on or don and doff, our PPE and just making sure. And so at that time, we were even raffling. We would put all our names in a hat at the beginning of the shift, and whoever got picked took care of the patient, and then so on and so forth. And so, of course, at that time, it's scary. It's new. No one knows what's going on. And then you come back to work like a week or two later, the whole unit looks like that. You come back, the whole floor looks like that. And then you come back again, and it's the whole hospital. And so at that point, you're just like, okay, this is, it's something bad, but you're like, this is really bad. And it's not just my hospital. It's the hospital surrounding, it's the hospitals in Queens and, in the Bronx, it's all over the place. And you're just like, what is going on here? And so for me, working in the ICU, we were getting patients, putting them on the ventilators, having things with like 1 million medications and drips, and really just trying to keep people alive. And, it's a horrible time. We don't have visitors, people can't be with their family members, and it's a lot. You have like tons and tons of PPE. I would remember like going in rooms and trying to do things, and my goggles are foggy, and it's just all white, and I can't see and I can't breathe. And I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to do what I have to do and leave. And that just pretty much being it for a while, and just trying to deal with that. And of course, then they offer the vaccine and this and that, and then the controversy and conversation around that, and just trying to figure those things out. And I don't think it hit me, honestly, what was happening and what I had worked through, maybe until the end of last year, is when I was able to reflect and be like, oh shoot, that was a lot. Because when you're in it, you're just doing it. You're working, you're doing what you have to do. These people are coming in, you're taking care of them, on to the next one, and you keep going and you keep going. And, that kind of, it's not great to be doing that either, because where are you in all of this? Like, you start to lose yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. And if I have nothing for me, I can't give anything to you. So I have to constantly like keep checking in with myself now, and just being aware of, okay, you've been working too much. You need to take a break, take a step back. And that was pretty much it for that, especially like those first few months. It was rough.
Yeah, I agree. So I would say I had a similar situation. I work in labor and delivery. So my experience is different from Astajia on the level of how sick the patients were. But it was just, everything was upside down. We went from having, 3 visitors by the bedside to no visitors. Some of these women were delivering their first babies alone by themselves with no support. And everybody's scared, everybody's nervous about it. So like Astajia said, you take turns on who's gonna get the COVID positive patient for the night, So I would say I was a little isolated from everything else that was happening in the hospital, but we dealt with it. We still had to deal with it. We're wearing PPE to go in there. We're doing procedures in there because we still have to treat the patient no matter what the situation is. You still have to give them the highest level of care that you possibly can. So you're in the room sometimes for hours pushing with the patient, and then oh, the sweat is just like dripping down your back because you have your scrubs on, and then you have the gown on, and you have the mask and the goggles, and it's just and the face shield. So it was really, really tough. It was not an experience that I want to have again. I did, for me, I got floated to a unit that had COVID positive patients, and I was just like, wow, this is what the rest of the hospital is dealing with. So that was very sobering because, everybody's on a ventilator and you're just trying to keep them alive. Like you're like doing magic to keep them alive. You're putting up medications. And at that time, I know they really relaxed the rules in the hospital. So it's just like, sometimes you're just hanging medications without, scanning it. You know what you're giving, but it's just like, I got to keep this medication going to keep this patient alive. So it was just very, very challenging. As Astajia said, it was a time of high anxiety, I would say, just knowing that you're going to walk into this hospital and you don't know if you're going to catch it today. And then to know that you have to go back to your family. And I was having a conversation recently that I remember not hugging my mom for months, not hugging her for months. When I come home, she goes into her room, I go into the bathroom, and like we avoided each other like the plague. And then so the time that I finally got to hug her, it was awkward because I was just like, should we be doing this? Like, is it safe to touch now? So it was very challenging. And it feels like a dream.
Well, I was going to say that, obviously you saw a lot of death. It's seeing death at that scale is a whole different thing. Taj, for you had your parents in the same situation as you. And so it's a whole different, okay, the three of us are in the line of fire every single day. And we still have two siblings at home. I still have two siblings at home that are not in this line of fire, but there's a high probability that three of us may get it and may not live through it. Because that's a conversation to have. Mm-hmm. And Juliane, you're the one that's coming in and out of the house, and it's a possibility that you're going to bring it into your house.
Yeah.
And your parents that are older, there's a possibility that they may get it. And every day you're watching not only patients dying, but I'm sure that you witnessed or heard of colleagues dying. Mentally, how are you guys? Because this is what you're hearing. Mental care overall is the biggest discussion finally that people are talking about. But how do you even wrap your heads around your own mental care when you had to sit there and take care of the patients, take care of yourself, make sure you're taking care of your family, and then now everything is open and you're like, where am I? Like, where are you mentally? Because it's great that you own a business. It's great that you're doing all this stuff, but you're still dealing with COVID. You're in the lineup. You're like directly there. And you're seeing certain countries are still focusing on it and still dealing with it. And you're seeing how it's like you mentioned it, Taj, where the controversy with the vaccinations and the laissez-faire, like I go, oh, no problem, big parties and stuff like that. But yet we can go to big events now. So with everything that you've gone through and now what you're seeing and where it's like, it's a dream. You just said it. It's like a dream, like it's never happened. Because I walk out and I'm like, so weird. Because it's like a dream. Like it's like weird. Like, if you ever, there's an old show, Dallas, and for 2 years, they killed one of the main characters. And then 2 years later, he came back. They're like, oh, it was a dream. It was all a dream. So where are you overall, big picture, with the moment you heard it, the entire experience, and where you are right now?
I think in the beginning, because there was so much fear, at that time, I wasn't actually traveling yet. I didn't start yet. So in March 2020, I remember getting together with my charge nurse And sorry, Miss Travers, that's my manager. I said, we're gonna corner her because a lot of people are calling out because they're scared and no one's talking to us or communicating anything with us.
Yeah.
Who wants to come to work like that?
Yeah.
So one morning, I was a little mouthy. I said, hi, good morning, Miss Travers. We need to have a huddle on what's going on. And luckily at that time, our infection control director, he was coming on the unit. So she got lucky too, and she calls him over. And so we have like a whole huddle with the night shift and the day shift, and he's explaining everything. And I'm like, something that simple, just talking to your staff, communicating. People left the meeting, you didn't feel great.
Yeah.
But you felt a little better
Yeah.
that you weren't just coming and whatever happened. And so I think, kind of opening up communication then was helpful.
Yep.
During, honestly, like I said, I didn't really deal with it. There was just so much dying and sickness. I kind of blocked it out because I'm like, I need to deal with this. Someone else is coming. I've got to move on.
Yep.
And, you kind of do that. And then things slow down. You get to, a place where it's definitely more manageable. And you're like, wow, this is so different from last year, guys, right? And, kind of like, joking about it. Like me and my dad were talking about in the beginning, my dad was making all his tea with turmeric and onions and garlic and this. And my dad is cutting up onions and leaving them around the house. So we're finding onions in the lamp because it sucks up the COVID. And everyone's like, what is going on? And we're all confused, but my dad is like, it's helping because none of us have it. So we're going to keep doing it. And we're just like, okay. All of those, that's funny now. But at the time, I'm like, well, if this onion will help, I mean, sure. And, you just keep, doing all those things. And so now, I'm traveling and some places are still affected. And part of me is like, didn't you all learn from New York City in the beginning?
Yeah.
When we were all saying it. And so now I'm here and I'm like, okay, I have to be doing the same thing, but it's even worse because I'm like, there were a few ways for some of you to prevent this. You go to this super big, super spreader as they call it. Like, you didn't have to do all of that. Just like some of these simple precautions. And it's like 2 years in, I'm like, oh, I just don't want to see people dying in this way.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to like kind of wrap your head around, but I mean, we do what we have to do.
And now I switch back to the future of the business in the world that we live in today, in the industry that is growing and changing, with lots of people deciding to leave the hospital. I mean, there's so much going on. And you guys mentioned it. This is why I have you answer all these things at the beginning, because I just refer back to your own words. This is why I do no homework on anybody because I'm busy, but also you're going to give me things anyway. You said that you're young, you want to start a business, you know that you're not going to be doing this forever as being in the nursing business. A lot of people, because of COVID, decide to leave way earlier. So as this industry starts evolving, where do you see the nursing industry coming into it, one? And also, where do you see your product? Is it just one product? Will it be a company? And how does it fit into this ever-changing nursing industry? Because massive shortage, individuals that are not being valued, individuals that are overworked, not being valued, and more and more not getting paid what they should. So was that part of that plan of creating this product and creating this business because of all those other things and not just the wear and tear on your body? Where do you see, in your opinions, where do you see the future of nursing overall? We need nurses. We've always had nurses, but that wear and tear and the abuse of power is changing it. So you're in it, you're still loving it. You're seeing different locations, different units, different parts of the hospitals, areas that take better care of their nurses than others, but then there's a product that is much needed. So overall, big picture, where do you see this going?
As far as nursing in healthcare, when I really sit back and think about it, I'm a little concerned because, nurses, they come out of school very young also. And the women or the men that have been in nursing for a very long time, they're also phasing out. So those baby boomers on labor and delivery, it's known for a low turnover rate. Once you go there, the nurses stay there until they retire. So I work with a lot of like 50, 60-year-old women who they're just like, listen, I have 2 more years in me and then I'm done. And that's a large portion of the unit. And then nurses are only getting younger and younger, and they're coming out of college with a degree at, 21, 22. And
That's young. I mean,
it's young.
and I say that that's young in regards to not that you can't do the job, but you haven't had the experiences yet, and more mistakes can be made.
Right, right. And for us, we came out of Clara Barton at 18 with an LPN degree. So
Wow.
it was even younger for us. But I think there's a shift in nursing from when we started to nursing now in 2022.
What's the shift?
I feel like nowadays, just in general, people are more, I'll use the word fickle. People are a little fickle. People, of course, prioritize yourself. There's a big emphasis on mental health. There's a big emphasis on, well, if I don't like it, I'm not doing it. And, when you come to healthcare, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't like, a lot of things that you don't agree on.
Yep.
It doesn't work with a lot of people's schedules. For me, I'm already planning my work schedule for August, almost September. So it inconveniences your personal life. And I think that because there's such an emphasis on me and taking care of me, and I want to be able to do this, that it gets lost in translation that this is still a job and it's still a career and an obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as far as nursing goes, people have a different mindset where it's not like, I know I have to come to work. I'm going to do it. It is what it is. I'm going to get the job done. Now it seems as if like, oh, I don't want to do this forever. There's a lot of nurses coming out of nursing school who do not want to do bedside at all.
Yeah.
So, they want to go into different areas. Now aesthetics is a very big thing. So they want to go straight to aesthetics, or they want to go straight to, I don't know what.
They want to specialize.
Right. They want to go into specialties, not getting, a certain kind of background or foundation, which does decrease the amount of nurses that we'll have in certain areas.
Yeah.
So I do wish that from what I see in the new nurses coming up, that they would be more just like stick with it a little bit more. It's not easy. Trust me, we've been through nursing school twice. It's not easy at all. It's tiring, it's challenging, you sacrifice a lot, you don't get to go to some events, and that's also part of the job. It's part of the job. So
and Jodi, like you said, of people feeling just overworked and just not as appreciated, like that's another way we have to look at it as well, because I love this job, but I have bills. I have my own family that I need to take care of. I have my own self that I need to take care of. And so, financially, like, what can this do for me? Where is this taking me? And so do I want to make decent money, but I'm burnt out all the time where I can't even like be awake to be with my family? And so that's like another thing people are thinking about of, I guess I could do this for 2 years and then, I'm out.
Right.
And
it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. So, and the thing about nursing, which is like, it's almost like you throw a rope, like a fishing pole. Like, that it's stable, that you're gonna always have a job. So sometimes you're just like, what? It's a little tiring, but I know like this is stability right here. But there is a big thing on being overwhelmed. And we said it before, even from when we were younger, we're just like, I don't want to do this for the next 40, 50 years until I retire. So finding out how we can leverage it, how we can use nursing and make it work for us, this is starting from people who are right in the thick of it. So we know the type of products we want, and we definitely plan on like adding more to it, being able to expand and seeing where that goes.
2 more questions. Actually 3 more questions. You thought about this idea when you guys were younger. You waited. You finally decided to create it. What was the best advice that you got from whomever in regards of what in the process of creating this business?
Oh, I'd say for me, the best advice that I received is from my brother. He's the one that goes against the grain. Irv, he's a trainer. From young, he was just like, yeah, college is not for me. You know, he was that child that, you know, my parents were a little worried about. Like, how you gonna eat when you get older, you know?
I would be best friends with your brother, just saying. I would be best friends with him.
Yes. So I remember him telling me, like, listen, you have to have a level of delusion. You have to be delusional. You're going into this. People can get scrubs from anywhere. Some people don't care how they look. They buy, you know, certain scrubs, a basic set, and they go about their day. You have to be delusional. You have to know that you are the best. Even if you're starting up, you're the best. You're going to be the best. You talk to whomever about it. Be delusional. So I think
I love
that would
one.
be
That's like literally like my favorite. I mean, literally, I was never told I couldn't. My parents didn't know what I was going to do, but I was never told I couldn't. And so when I do things, everyone's like, well, why do you do that? I go, I don't know. I was never told I couldn't. Why do you go there? Why do you travel there? Why? I was never told I couldn't. And because of that, I was just like, I do Taj knows, I do outlandish, crazy things. I go to random places and everyone's like, what the hell? I go, I was never told I couldn't.
She's the cooler cousin. Like me and my siblings were like, she's so cool.
And it is by far one of the biggest compliments when your little cousins call you up or text you or email you and say like, no, seriously, like you make me, like, I do what I do because of you. I'm like, good, because I don't scold, I don't tell, I don't do anything. All I do is live, and I know they're watching. And that's the biggest thing for me, where I will not scold you on what you're doing. Your path is different than my path. But if I can be a role model just by you viewing what I do and I see you doing cool things, I'm like, I've done my job. Taj, what was the best advice that you got?
Recently, it was actually my trainer. I was telling Juliane, and she was just telling us to remain authentic and true to who we are. And it just sounds like just such, you know, cliche advice and just whatever.
Did you not just say I'm the coolest cousin? Hello, can I be any more authentic?
But she's right. I'm like, yeah, who are we? Yeah, that's us. And just like kind of like, you know, being delusional, hyping yourself up. Like, yeah, I'm me. Take it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 100%. What do your parents think of what you've accomplished now? Because they saw where you were. They're like, I'm not sure what's happening, what they're going to do. They're going to school. Go ask your brother. I don't know. You need to stay there, like get your eye on the prize. You need to focus. You go through this industry. You're really doing really well. And now you open up a business. What are their thoughts about what you're doing? Not only your parents, but also your siblings.
For me, I think that everybody thinks it's really cool. Like, it wasn't something where I was nervous about, like, presenting to my family. Everybody has their sense of like being a go-getter in my family. You know, my mom was the Mary Kay lady with stuff in her trunk. She'll pull up and, you know, you're coming out the bank. It's Friday. Like, what's up? Like, I know you need some lipstick. You know, my dad, he's a cheerleader no matter what I do. My brother is the one who's a trainer. He's whatever you want, go for it, because he's had to get it from the mud. My other brother, he's also another cheerleader where he'll post the stuff and talk about it more than I do. So I think everybody's just super proud on my side. Like they're just like, wow, you know, of course it's easier for them to be proud because I'm in a stable career. So it's not like I'm out here trying to trying to create something. And they're just like, how that, you know, it's gonna take a while for you to pay your bills. Like you're not gonna make money immediately. But I think that helps also. But besides that, they're all just like, wow, you know, my mom is like, give me some pieces so I can go to my friends, because my mom has a lot of friends who are in healthcare. My dad right now, he's currently in Haiti. So he's like, give me some so I could sell down here for you. And, you know, so it's been very like just amazing because everybody's so supportive of it. And they're just like, okay, when's the next colors? When's this? You know, you guys need to be out here doing this. And where's your business card so I can hand it out for you? And yeah, it's really nice to have that support.
I love it.
Is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say same as Juliane, super supportive. You know, my dad asking a million questions and, you know, even offering, he's like, if you guys need, I can do drop-offs for you, whatever you need. Like, it's like amazing though. But to touch back on what you said, we do have this stable career. So they have that comfort of, you know, I'm so happy you're pursuing this thing, but I'm also really happy you have a way to make money. Because I was telling Juliane during this, I told my parents I'm not gonna pursue, you know, anesthesia anymore. Yeah. And so when I said that, my mother was just like, come again. Because it had been something I had been working toward. And so when I said, no, like there are other things I want to do. I've been a nurse since I was 18. Like there are other things I want to pursue. And you I said that to her and she's like, you know what? You're right. And, you know, she's 100% on board. Everybody is super supportive. We're just really grateful.
I love it. Okay. So this is one of the things where like these conversations go by so fast. I've taken so much of your time, but you answered so well. Ladies, you answered so well. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. I'm assuming this is your first interview?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you for having us.
and mind you, like I mean, Juliane, I don't know if my cousin told, I worked in the media, so I ask questions because it's the mindset that I'm in. But I'm a dangerous 10-year-old at any given time, and I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to dig into them, and I want more elaboration. I want clarity, and so you guys did a great job. I love it. I'm so proud of you guys. When we say goodbye, don't hang up because I want to keep you offline for a little bit. But I am going to end it here where I ask the same thing of everyone that's on. This is my signature goodbye. As if you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that is listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask? So we are looking for 4 answers, 2 from each of you. Who wants to go first?
That's a great one.
I have a personal ask. How, if anyone, can you answer? I know there is no book. How are you all able to juggle starting up, working, maintaining friendships, family? I don't need an exact answer, but someone guide me because I'm tired. So if anyone has resources or tips and tricks, send them over.
I would have to say that I agree. If there's one personal ask that I have, it's that one. Because life is so busy. Oh my goodness. You have no idea. Between working and if you're in school and having a family, a relationship, it's just like, can we ask for more hours in the day, please? Just like, but I would say also another personal ask is how do you stay organized? we got so much going on and we have like files of everything. And it's just like, all right, we have Google Docs here and Google Keep here, and we have a list here. And how do we stay organized, friends? Like, what is the secret? What's the secret?
Okay, those are the personals. Which one? What are your professional asks?
Big professional. Well, one that we kind of need. if anyone knows anyone who's great with social media, you know,
social
throw us
media
out there
management,
too.
content creation,
We would love that.
we could use you. Yeah, that's a good one. Another professional ask. I'll just take any resources that comes along. Like, I think in entrepreneurship and in business, it's one hand washes the other. And if there's anybody that, does copywriting, if there's anybody who creates content, if there's somebody who knows a better, easier way to ship something, it's just any resource would be nice. So we're still very new to this, where it's all trial and error for us still. We've learned some hard lessons recently. So any kind of guidance, like a tip, a word of advice, I think professionally we're good with that.
I love those. I love both of those. And I think that one of the biggest things that any new founder, their biggest barrier is asking for help. And this is why I say personal and professional ask. We literally ask for our companies all the time, but we don't ask for our needs. And so I think that the first step of what you're doing is ego aside. I need help to make sure that I am keeping this train moving. And that is already a win for you. So thank you, ladies. I know you guys are busy. I know that you guys are every which way. Thank you so very much for talking. And it is one of those moments where I would do anything and everything for my relatives anyway, but I'm also super crazy proud of you because you are doing it so well. And the second you posted it on social media, I'm like, I lost my mind of just happiness. I think that, I don't know if the post or me just leaving a message of screaming happiness. So happy when they're not doctors, lawyers, or engineers. I'm so happy because again, that means you're coming into my world, and I work with entrepreneurs all over the world. And when I have family doing it, I'm elated. I'm absolutely elated. So proud of you guys. So happy and so thankful for all the work that you guys do in the hospitals, because I know how important nurses are. Not only because I have a lot of nurses in the family, but also my grandmother, my dad. My dad died of cancer 7 years ago. My grandmother also died 7 years ago. It was the same year. And those nurses literally made our sadness. We weren't mad that year. It was a sad year, but they had the best care. Thus, they had the best lives. And I'm so thankful for nurses like you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being creative. Thank you for creating this brand new product line. And thank you for letting someone, this is the most important part, you've created a product line to allow people to stand out in a business, in an industry that you just kind of ignored. So great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, don't hang up. We're saying goodbye right now. And then we will literally talk offline.
Okay.
Bye.